Welcome back, Management Science 394 students. In this video, I'm going to go over part 2 of the dead on the money example. This time, I'm going to focus on summing by a grouping variable. We left off here, and I need to rename this table actually so that it's a little more meaningful. So I'm going to call this dead Benny claims W for with cost. Okay, now I'm going to again create a simple query. So okay. I want it from that last table, the dead Benny claims with cost. This has all the information that I want. And if you recall, one of our goals was to find the amount billed from each provider. So I'm going to include the provider ID and the cost now. Go to next and choose summary. And the summary option, I want is sum. I want the sum for each provider. I'm also going to tell Access that I want to see the count. This is going to tell me how many claim lines that provider submitted for a beneficiary who was deceased. And click OK. And finish. Okay, and so here are my results. So I have now just the provider ID and how much in claims that provider submitted for dead beneficiaries. I don't like the way this looks. I want to see it as currencies. And the easiest way I found to do that is to go to the design view. And I'm going to come over here for sum and click in this box. I think any of these boxes will work. I want to leave that checked. And right click to go to properties. And then over here, you'll see a format. Let me pull this over a little more so you can see more clearly. On the format, I want currency. And I'm not too worried about cents right now. I'm going to tell it I want 0 decimal places. And that should take care of it. And so now let me go back and see what this looks like. Okay, so now I have currency, and I'm interested in seeing who those top providers are. So you can just click on this column, right click, largest to smallest. And now I can see who my provider is with the most amount of money charged for dead beneficiaries, provider 582609. And you can click down and see the cost for each of these providers. You can look at the count and see that we had 206 providers who submitted claims for dead beneficiaries. Okay, I'm going to shut this out because I want to rename this query. I'm going to tell it, let's rename it provider sums. Okay, and we'll go over here to the, let me pull that table back up. I want to go back, I want to view the design view. Let's take a look there. And so notice we have our provider ID. Notice on this total, we say we're going to group by the provider ID and we want a sum. So that's what this is showing. Okay. All right, and let's take a look at the SQL code. All right, so this says now select distinct row, dead Benny claims with cost provider ID. So we're going to get a distinct list of provider IDs. And for each of those provider IDs, we're going to sum the cost. Okay, and then we're also going to get a count of each row for those providers. And we're going to take that from the dead Benny claims with cost query, and we're going to group it by the provider ID. All right, so that's just a peek at the SQL code. And now I want to go ahead, the second goal was I wanted to see the sum of the cost for each item code. So I'm going to go to Create, Query Wizard, Simple Query Wizard. I want to go back to my table that has all of the information that I want, the D. Benny claims with cost, that has all the fields. And this time I want the item code. All right, so the item code. It doesn't matter which one I pick because they're the same. I do want to go ahead and include the description, and I'm going to include the cost. Click Next. I want a summary again. I want a sum again. I want the sum of every item that was billed. And I also want a count of each item code that was billed. And click OK. And finish. All right, here's my new query. I want to go ahead and rename it so I don't forget what it is. So this is actually the query that just ran. I'm going to close this so I can rename it. I'm going to rename it Item Sums. Okay, there we are. And as I did before, I want to format the sum so that it's easier for me to look at. Okay, so I find that I can do this most easily in the design view. So I'm going to go over here to Sum, right click, Properties, and let me see. My field is hiding over here. Okay, I was able to find my fields table here. So I'm clicking on Sum of Cost, and I want to go to Format, Currency, and again, I'm just going to choose 0 decimal places. So I asked for currency and 0 decimal places. So I'll close that out. Let's take a look now at the table. All right, let's reduce this font a little bit. All right. Pull this over. Okay, and now I want to see which item code was had the greatest sum. So I'm going to right click, largest to smallest. And now I can see that the item that had the most amount of claims billed was the, this is actually a power operated vehicle. It's like a scooter. This POV stands for Power Operated Vehicle, code K0808. And let's see, about $866,000 was billed for that particular code. You see, it looks like it was also the most frequently billed code. I can sort here as well from largest to smallest. And yes, so that one was the most frequently billed and also had the greatest sum. All right, and we have just 53 codes that were fraudulently billed, and most of these are K codes, and most of those are wheelchairs. I just know that from prior knowledge. I wouldn't expect you to know that necessarily, but that is where a lot of Medicare fraud takes place. Finally, I want to show you one last step. I want to see the total. I want to know exactly how much was billed, so I'm going to go to Create, Query Wizard. Okay, this is going to ask me to close this out first. Yes. Okay, let's see if it'll cooperate now. Create Query Wizard, Simple Query Wizard. And I have some options here. I really just want this total. So I'm going to choose the sum of costs. So it's going to give me the sum of the sums. And again, there were some different tables I could have done this with. And as you're working, I encourage you to check some of the other tables and find the total this way. See if you get the same result. Summary, summary options, sum, okay, and finish. Let's pull this over. All right, and so this is the total of all claims, about $1,400,000. I'm going to rename that query. It's going to make me close it first, so let me just go ahead and do that. Yes, we will save, and I'm going to call this all right, let me close this guy out too. And I will come over here and rename this as the total cost. All right, that concludes this video. I hope that gives you a reminder of the access commands that I showed you in class. And again, I didn't show you here, but you could, on the item sums, go back and view the SQL code just to start to get a feel for that. We'll be talking about it more formally later. And you will have an assignment with some similar data, but your numbers will be different from my numbers, but you'll have similar tables. So I hope these videos will help you as you are completing that assignment.